I just wanted to start up a new stream here. Some interesting stuff been going down the last few days concerning gun rights, and it's something a lot of people, I think, have not paid a whole lot of attention to. Wait till a few people show up here before I get into this rant too much. But it's definitely not a good thing. Alright, we got 13 here. Good enough. You know, a lot of us are definitely strong Second Amendment supporters, obviously. We pay attention to what's coming out of the White House and the federal government. We pay attention to our governors and our states, you know, what crazy mess are they trying to pass now? Well, something most people don't pay attention to. The one thing people never seem to watch is their city councils. Hopefully I can get the sound a tad bit better. Let me know how it sounds. Better, worse, whatever. Let me see if I can adjust anything. There we go. Alright, I cranked it up. But you know, most people can tell you who their governor is, state people, you know, but when it comes to your city council, most people are clueless. And this is from Toledo, Ohio. Some anti-gun groups have been sponsoring this, but this is one thing. I'll play this clip, and you can hear exactly how bad it could get in your area if things like this go through. I'm going to play this clip.
It's not a new law. There won't be, well, apologies to laws on the books. We already have enough laws on the books. Why don't, instead of passing another gun control law, why don't you just enforce the laws? We already have enough laws. To that, I will nod and say, okay, fine. We already have enough laws on the books, good. What I'm talking about today and what this initiative is should please you, because it's not a new law. It's not a new law. There won't be, well, apologies to Nick and his group on City Council, there will be no City Council hearings on this. There will be no vote of City Council. This is a power that I have as the mayor of the city, and I am going to wield it and execute it myself. No hearings, no legislation, there will be no new laws. I have the ability, as the chief executive of the city, to enter into contracts however I see fit. When City Council passes an ordinance, there's always a line that says, blah, 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 authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract to do X. So thank you, City Council, for that authority. What we are saying today is that when we enter into contracts in the future pertaining to the companies that we do business with, we are going to make sure, we are going to take steps to make sure that these companies are responsible. We're going to make sure that they're responsible. The city of Toledo every year spends about $150,000 purchasing guns, ammunition, replacement parts for its guns, about $150,000. And it struck me that maybe the way to get the attention of the gun companies is to hit them where it hurts, in their pocketbook. If you recall, after Parkland, Delta Airlines tried to take some free market action, and I think Bank of America did something. I should, if I were reading my notes, I might know what I'm talking about, but it strikes me, I remember that they tried to bring change through the private sector, through free market forces. Again, when you have a Congress that fundamentally doesn't care, cares more about profits than human life, you got to be creative. You got to come up with ways to do it. They won't solve the problem. We're going to try to do something. What we're going to do is try to put free market pressure on the gun companies to change their behavior. And we are prepared to take our business away from companies that look the other way as AR-15s end up in the hands of the mentally ill, as bump stocks make their way into the hotel suite of the guy in Las Vegas who shot 600 people. We are going to now require that the companies that seek to do business with us for our $150,000 of business will have to answer questions that will get to their responsibility in this regard. And we have those questions printed out and we'll distribute them to them. I understand that we are just one tiny voice in the wilderness, and that $150,000 doesn't mean much to these multi-million dollar, multi-billion dollar, well politically protected companies. I get it. I am hoping that what we begin here in Toledo, though, can turn into something bigger. I've been working on this for a while, thinking about it for a while, and when I was in Boston at the U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting, I talked to Steve Benjamin. He is the mayor of Columbia, South Carolina. He's also the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We are talking, and I talked to others, by the way, when I was there. We are talking about creating a system where mayors in this country can band together and put financial pressure on the worst actors in the gun business. Because it is true that these big companies might not blink an eye if all they're going to do is lose $150,000 from the city of Toledo. But if we band together and the dollar amount grows, we might start to see some change. I can tell you that tonight I'm going to be in Columbus at a dinner meeting with John Cranley, the mayor of Cincinnati, who, by the way, suffered a mass shooting in his city last month at Fifth Third Square. If you remember, the person who walked into Fifth Third and just started shooting people. Andy Ginther, who's the mayor of Columbus, Nan Whaley, the mayor of Dayton. And we're going to be talking about this. And I know that I've already talked to them about this initiative. Mayor Cranley is the chair of the U.S. Conference of Mayors Public Safety Committee. He is engaged and actually has brought the mayor of Louisville on board. He is going to succeed Mayor Benjamin as the president of the Conference of Mayors next year. And what I'm trying to describe to you is a movement, what I hope becomes a movement that begins, it's got to begin somewhere. It has to start somewhere. We can't keep looking the other way and rolling our eyes and throwing out vacuous tweets about thoughts and prayers and holding vigils and then going back into hibernation until the next mass shooting. It has to start somewhere. It's going to start in Toledo. It's going to start with $150,000 of free market capitalism pressure on these companies. But if it expands just to the cities, the major cities in Ohio, as I believe it could, I'll know more after tonight, now all of a sudden you're talking about $1 million when you think of just those 4 or 5 cities. And then what might be $1 million if we can move it to, with the help of Mayor Benjamin and the Conference of Mayors, if you start bringing on the biggest cities in this country, all of a sudden you're talking about tens of millions of dollars. If Congress won't do it, if Congress won't care, then we will have to do it at the local level. We'll have to do creative things. We'll have to think outside the box, and we will have to show the leadership that Congress is unwilling or afraid to show. And it might take a while, but we are going to build a network of mayors around the country who are going to unite to put pressure on the profits of these companies, because that's about the only leverage we have left. When you have a disinterested and cowardly Congress, when you have states that shrug their shoulders, it really does then come down to leaders at the local level to care and to try to do something. I don't know if this is going to work. I think it could. I think it has some real potential. I think it has potential to affect these companies in the one place that they seem to care about, and that is money. And it could inspire change in this country. $150,000 at a time, or $1 million at a time if we can get my partners in Ohio on board, or perhaps tens and hundred millions of dollars at a time if we get the U.S. Conference of Mayors behind it. But it has to start somewhere. And I am to the point where I as an American, just can't stand by anymore and not take some action. This is an action that I can take. It's a power that I have, and we're going to do it. And so I appreciate your time in being here today. I know I probably rambled a bit, but I think this is important. And it is not a stretch to say that what happened in Pittsburgh over the weekend could happen in Toledo. The same mixture of hate and bigotry and mental illness exists in every city in the United States.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause it there. What he's basically getting to, he rambles on way too much. And it's not about disarming the people. I mean, I don't agree with none of a single word he's saying, but he's tried his gun bans in Toledo in the past. They don't work. What he's talking about is not allowing gun shops to be allowed to be in your town. If that shop sells an AR-15, the mayor will not allow it to be in business. That is the whole point. To try to make these gun companies to have nowhere to sell their guns. That is what he's getting at. And he says that his city council, which I guess the majority of places are probably very similar, that the mayor himself has final say on, can this business be in this town? You know, if I was the mayor of my town, then I would have the say-so of, yes, you can open your business, or no, you can't. And that is what he's getting at. But something that none of these idiots are thinking about. Yeah, it might cost the gun company $150,000, as he said. I wonder how much tax money the city of Toledo gets from those gun shops. We have local tax here in this state. You know, we got our state tax and we got a local tax. So I just wonder how much they will actually lose. And in turn, they got to fill that gap somewhere. So all in all, it will become very unpopular very quickly, even with the people that don't like the guns. They're sure not going to like it when their taxes get all out of whack. And that would include the mayor himself. So that's what he's getting at is, you know, to stop the sale of AR-15s in the town. And then the next mayor does it, the next mayor does it. And before it's over with, they think that there'll be just, yes, the gun may be legal in the United States, but there will be no town where anybody can buy it. Because it'll all be banned on a local level. And that's the whole point with election season here. Like I said, we pay attention to what comes out of Washington, the White House. We're all up in arms when something goes wrong there. When our governors do things, everybody's up in arms, raising Cain, this, that, and the other. But most people have no clue who's on their city councils. And if you do see the names, you may not even know what party, you know, they run for. You would be surprised. You'd be very surprised in these small little rural towns of who's actually in charge. The people might not like it, but there's more corruption on these small little city council level issues than there are in Washington or anywhere else. They're on such a small scale, though, that it's easier to hide and very few actually pay attention. You know, there's... How many times have we heard of scandals in surrounding areas or maybe our own town that the public didn't find out about for sometimes years? So I think, you know, regardless of what the meeting is for, and I'm going to do this myself, I think we need to start attending some of our city council meetings. Find out what's going on. Find out who's who. It doesn't have to be a gun issue. But just whatever the issue is, just by how those on your council look at it and react, then you will find out how they'll deal with other issues you know, it all shines through when it comes up time to vote. When those council members cast their votes. So it's good to find out what is going on, and it can do a lot of good if the people get involved locally. Case in point, a few months back, I even live streamed it, or, well, I uploaded it anyway. We had a Muslim group that wanted to build one of them halal, whatever, slaughterhouses around here, and nobody wanted it. Granted, the majority of them didn't care about the Muslim thing of it. That's a whole nother deal. But regardless, they didn't like the issue, being in a populated area, doing all this. So the people got together and we squashed it. It stopped. Done, over with. So, I mean, they still own the land, but they can't build their business. So it can work, but people need to know about it. And something I think is also very good is talk to your friends, family, not necessarily about guns, but any issues. Just find out something that they don't like. And then when you start going to these city council meetings, you can point out to these people, hey, this person is doing stuff that, you know, you don't care for. Because, you know, all Republicans and conservative people, a lot of good ones, but some of them just don't really care about guns one way or the other. It's like a non-issue to them, sadly, but that's the truth. So find out something that will get them involved. You know, you keep shoving guns at them, they don't care, they're tired of hearing it, it's not going to do any good. But find something else. Find another thing that they're passionate about. Everybody's got something that they care about. But once you can find that, use that as your avenue to get them involved. You know, sadly, like I said, no one knows their city council, but in reality, the laws that your city council and mayors and stuff pass will affect you more than even something that Trump will pass on a day-to-day basis. Because Washington, D.C., they're doing broad scopes, you know, passing stuff that will affect the country. But you may not necessarily notice it day to day. When your city council starts passing ordinances, regardless of what they are, or mayors like this idiot here doing stuff, that will affect you every single day as long as you live there. And I think it's a lot more important to pay attention to that stuff versus, I mean, we've got to pay attention to all of it, obviously, but it's very hard to change the minds of federal government. Governors, you can put a lot of pressure on. City councils, I think you can make some change happen very quick if you get enough people to actually show up and fight for it. You know, we all can't make our governor rallies and protests. We all can't run to Washington, D.C. every time we want to voice our opinion about something. They don't always answer phone calls, and emails can be, I mean, I send them, but how good do they do? Who knows? But city council, that's not too far from you. If you don't have a car, you can walk. You know, you can make it to your city council, get there, and voice your opinion. And I think that's a very valid point. And then if you get the city councils all on the correct side, then they as a group will put pressure on the governors. And the governors will put pressure on D.C. So I think we've been looking at this over the years kind of backwards, starting at the top. I think we need to start looking more local, and I guess you could say starting at the bottom. You know, they always talk about the trickle-down effect. Well, it can go in the opposite way as well. But I'll go back and see what the rest of this guy here has to say before I finish out this whole live stream. I got a few other things to add, but I want to finish up with this idiot here first.
We have to do everything we can to get on top of it. And there are a lot of components to it. Again, like I said, we have to do, our mental health system needs to, you know, respond maybe better than it has. But this, too, is one area where reasonable people can agree that change can be made. Heck, after Sandy Hook, I think the Gallup, I think it was 92% of Americans wanted to make this change, and leave it to the cowards in Congress to take no action, because protecting the constitutional right of the criminally insane to own an AR-15 was more important to them than 6-year-olds getting slaughtered under their desks. That's on them. I can only affect what I can do. This is something I can do. Ran for mayor to do something, not to be something. And today we're trying to do something. We're trying to tackle a national issue. And I appreciate your help in communicating that. And I appreciate my partners behind me for being a part of this here today. So I don't know if anyone wants to add anything, the chief or safety director or members of council, but that's all I have to say. Ignacio has the questions that he'll distribute to you. I do believe that Toledo could be a national leader in this regard, and that we can, and I hope other cities follow us. And I'm going to be working my networks around the state and around the country to try to build some support and try to put some pressure on the companies to bring about change.
When is the next time that you do like a contract negotiation with guns or ammunition? I mean, has that already taken place, or is it coming up?
We do that every time we make a large purchase, and these new requirements will be rolled into that bid process, so before any bid will be accepted, those will have to be answered.
Do we know when the next purchase will be made? Is it coming up soon? How often do you make a purchase?
Well, it depends. It depends on the year. We usually have to buy ammunition a couple of times a year. We're getting ready to have a class of 40 that's going to start in May, so we'll be ramping up the process pretty quickly.
Will you be releasing the names of the businesses that you already negotiate with so we can get comments from them?
We get our firearms through Vance, which is out of Columbus. We get our parts from Sig Sauer, specifically out of New Hampshire, and we get our ammunition from
Lawman Supply? Is it Lawman Supply Company?
No, okay. I can't remember the name of the ammunition, but I'll get it for you. And they're out of Indiana. Mm-hmm. We have those names and addresses.
How do you feel about the new initiative?
This may sound counterintuitive from a police chief, but I agree completely. This is not an indictment on the Second Amendment. This is making sure that law-abiding citizens who are of right mind have access to weapons. This is a access issue. If you're a convicted felon, or you have a temporary protection order for domestic violence, or you're on a no-fly list, you shouldn't be able to walk in to a gun show and walk out with 10 guns. In my opinion, I've been very vocal on this as well. This country needs to tighten up its purchasing, how we purchase guns. You walk into a gun show, you can walk out with whatever you want. No background investigation, nothing. And I believe every firearm sale should go through a federal firearm licensed person to make sure that all the requirements and the background checks take place.
For what it's worth, I'm sorry, for what it's worth, coming back to the person I started with, the gentleman from Kentucky that went to the church and couldn't get in and then went to the Kroger, he was convicted of domestic assault 2001, I think, which means that under federal law, he should not have had access, he should not have been able to get a gun. But guess what? He did. They always do. When you have a power structure that looks the other way, things like that happen. And I guess more than anything else, what we're saying here in Toledo, Ohio, is we're not looking the other, we're not looking the other way anymore. We are going to try to bring about change the hard way. The easy way would be if the President and Congress didn't care as much about the constitutional rights of terrorists, and I guess.
Okay, he's just more rambling on anyway, but I'll fill it in the best I can. I'll see if I can pause it on his questionnaire so I can actually read it. So bear with me here for just a second. Okay, I'm going to try my best to actually read this. It's kind of blurry, but nevertheless, what this basically is boiling down to is this mayor says he has the authority. He don't have to ask nobody, no council, no making new laws, nothing. That if a business comes into his town, which is Toledo, Ohio, he has the right to say yes or no, you can have your business here. And he's wanting to ban any businesses that have anything to do with the AR-15 starting next year. And it goes on for other things, ammunition, other equipment. And it says, do you manufacture assault weapons for civilian use? Well, that would be a no, because those are not assault weapons to begin with. And they want to know, do you sell assault weapons for civilians? Obviously not. What firearms does your company agency agree to not sell to civilians? Do you require your dealers to conduct background checks? Does your company plan to invest in gun and ammunition tracing technology? And do you have a minimum, for inventory control to trace everything, all that kind of stuff? And if you say that your business has anything to do with the AR-15 or is not investing in these programs, to trace ammo and all that stuff, then you will not be allowed in the city of Toledo. But he was in a mayor's conference in Boston, I think he said, getting mayors from all around the country to go along with this. So this way, he says, nobody can cry that we're making new laws, because they're not. They're just doing it at discretion of the mayor. Hit them in the pockets. They're not trying to necessarily take a firearm, Cheeseburger. They're trying to prevent anybody from having the opportunity to buy one. There'll be none for sale. That's what they're really getting at. Because they've tried to grab the guns before and it doesn't work. But this way, they're saying it's not an infringement on your right, because the gun is still legal to own. There just won't be anywhere you can go buy one. That's their whole point. And they think that by doing this, it'll really hurt the gun companies. It was $150,000 a year that the city of Toledo spends on firearms and ammo and things of that sort. But something that's never mentioned is, I wonder how much taxes that those companies actually, bring into Toledo. But then on the other hand, this is very, counterproductive, I guess, to their thing. But the cops stood right there and said that their guns don't even come from the city of Toledo. They go to Columbus, which is Vance Outdoors. I've been there several times. Nice shop. Got everything, pretty much. And that's where they buy all their stuff. Their ammo comes from out of state. Their parts come straight from SIG. So they're not even, going to directly be affected. But they've also talked to the mayors of Columbus also, which is where they would end up having some deals. But they're wanting all mayors across the country to get together and do this same thing, to say, if you deal with the AR-15 in any way, shape, or form that'll be sold to civilians, then, you won't be allowed to have a business here. And you won't be able to order online, have it brought in, like a lot of us have done. No internet deals to bring the guns in, because the dealers will not even be allowed to do background checks or nothing on those type of firearms. So that's their whole goal in this thing, is to get the mayors to do it. And it was like I said a few minutes ago, most people, they know all about what's going on at the governor's level, the White House, all that type of stuff. We all create a fuss, call, email, whatever. But when it comes to your city council, if they were all lined up on the sidewalk or right out in front of your house, you wouldn't have a clue who half of them even were. And if you knew a name, you wouldn't be able to tell right off the top of your head, oh, so-and-so's a Republican, so-and-so's a Democrat. Nobody pays attention to their city council. And that's where it all needs to start. Because like I said, you get enough city council people, you know, your local population, to get the city council to think in the right way, then they will put pressure on the governors. And then the governors put pressure on Washington, D.C., and it all goes from there. But it's kind of like, you know, they say, you know, it all stems from home. You got to take care of the local issues. Because that's the stuff that will definitely affect you every single day. They pass a lot of crazy stuff in Washington that may or may not directly affect you on a daily basis. But I can guarantee 99% of stuff that councils pass will affect you one way or another. I don't care if I'm a target. That makes no difference to me. I could really care less. Most people in my area are very conservative, gun-loving, you know, type people. Freedom-loving, I should say. Kind of do what you want, leave me alone attitude. But sadly, stuff like this could get slipped through here. Because when it's local elections only, that's also when you get the lowest turnout of voters. And that's when you should actually have one of the highest turnouts. If it's only local people on the ballot, you should campaign just as hard as if you was, you know, dealing with a presidential, you know, election or some larger race. And I'm guilty of it myself, but everybody needs to pay attention. And one last thing I'll mention on this topic is something I also said earlier. There are a lot of conservatives and other people who just don't care about guns one way or another. They feel it's a non-issue to them. Well, so you need to find out something they do care about. Find out what issue those people, you know, are passionate about. Go to your city councils, find out what's going on, and use whatever issue that person's passionate about as an avenue to get them to pay attention to politics, the local stuff. Because you can shove guns at them all day long, and if they don't care, they don't care. So, if you can find something they do care about, then use that as an angle to maybe get them involved. Because you can find out very quickly, the city councils, they generally vote right away, you know, right there. There's no denying who this or that person, you know, how they voted. It's right there in front of you. You can record them most of the time. You know, do what you want. So it's a lot better to just pay attention locally. You still got to keep pressure on everybody else, but put the same effort forward, you know, put forth the same effort, I should say. And do it, get people involved. And the other thing I want to mention too is this article that came out. There's several places you can look at it, but FedEx has stopped dealing with the NRA. They done that today, matter of fact. Yeah, they ditched all their partnership. FedEx was, you know, standing up for a lot of things gun-wise, but it doesn't seem to be that way now. They've completely went, it was an NRA discount. It says FedEx will no longer offer a discount to members of the National Rifle Association. A FedEx spokesperson claimed that this had nothing to do with the most recent shooting, mass shooting. The one in, Pittsburgh? Yeah. Business Insider reports the FedEx has been under scrutiny with its ties to the NRA for years. But they claim that it's just not really worth it. You know, there was no benefits from it. They said the NRA mainly uses UPS and not FedEx anyway when they ship from their online store. So, I don't really know how to feel about that. Because it says that they also revoked from over 100 other companies. So, if that's the case, then, you know, if it's from a purely business sense, then I could see it, I guess. I mean, you're a business, you got to do what you got to do. And it doesn't appear that it's anything gun related. And I really don't think it is. I mean, I could be wrong on this, but if FedEx had a legit gun issue that they didn't want nothing to do with guns anymore, then they would change their policy, because that's where most guns are shipped through. Every time I've ever had a gun shipped or had to ship one, it's always FedEx. They deal 99% of gun deals. So I don't know really how to take it. I'm not a fan of NRA anyway, but that's not the point. So is it a, like I said, is it a, they're taking a stance and not wanting to admit it? You'll have to make your own call, you know, on that. But I did want to bring that out. But I'm going to go ahead and close this stream out. But if anybody could, you know, I don't always ask, but if you could share this stream around, get some people to watch it. I think people really need to hear stuff from that mayor and what all's been going on. Because, you know, these are very, like, important issues that people just don't think of when it comes to their local politicians. I don't know about starting a new shipping company. I mean, if it's from a purely business standpoint, I don't know. I mean, it is kind of bad, I guess. If a company is giving you a discount, you know, if you got a business of whatever you're selling, I don't care. You know, you could be selling cell phone cases or whatever. If FedEx is giving you a discount and giving your members a discount, well, wouldn't you think it would be kind of wise to use them when you ship stuff? But from the way it seems is the NRA doesn't even use FedEx from their online store. So why would I want to give you a discount if you're not even throwing any business my way? If that is the case, then I really can't blame FedEx. I don't think it is a gun issue. It sounds more like a business issue. From the way I'm reading it now. I mean, there could be more to it. I don't want to say I agree or disagree completely, but from the information that I can see, you really can't blame them. But I don't know. You know, I never like to make 100% calls on anything when you really don't know 100% of the facts. But can't really blame them if it's from just a purely business standpoint. But like I said, if you could share this stream around, let people know what's going on. If you got social media, Facebook, Twitter, or whatever else you might use, toss it out there. You know, this thing should be completely uploaded probably within the next 15-20 minutes as soon as I end it. Shouldn't take too long. And maybe people will actually start paying more attention to their local stuff. And if anybody else hears of any crazy local issues, especially ones that are trying to get other towns and cities to follow suit, let me know. Down in the description of all my videos, I got the Discord, or just send me a comment on any of my videos, and I'll get it and take it from there. Because I want to let people know as much as possible about what is actually going on. So, stay safe, guys. Make sure you go vote and pay attention to all the politicians, not just the headline candidates. Pay attention to the smaller ones too, because in the long run, they could be your best friend or your worst enemy. So, take it easy, guys. Stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.